the episode.
All right, let's get into it. I'm very excited to have this guest on. I've been watching him on the internet. He dropped some hammers. I'm very excited. This is going to be a great interview. I'm very excited. He's one of the most banned artists in the art scene, which is kind of crazy, man. Please welcome Arthur Kwon Lee. Damn, I got that. Yes,
Thank
Arthur,
you for
how
having
are
me
you,
on,
buddy?
gentlemen. I appreciate you all. Let's have a nice conversation here.
I'm very excited. Our good friend Heil Hibbler made this happen. I'm very excited.
Nice.
Thank you, Hibbler, for doing that. Wherever you are in Texas right now.
Essentially, one of the most censored and banned people on the internet. I've been banned on Instagram, Meta, X multiple times, multiple payment processors, YouTube, all of these different mainstream platforms. And I've been able to work around it because I've been using my brother's IP. But my IP is essentially blocked on both my computer and my phone. And really comes down to the fact that I've been really questioning and causing people to be red pilled about how our government is colonized by Israel. And that in conjunction to the fact that I'm also a very unapologetic Christian. I'm a Christian painter. I make biblical imagery. And before that, the other half of people know me because I'm sort of like the anti-Marina Abramovich in the art world.
Yeah,
You know,
great.
yeah, a lot of people don't. There's more people who know me because of the internet social commentary.
Yeah, that's where I
But
know you from.
yeah, trying to wake people up because I was a painter and I painted Christian imagery because my faith is very important to me. And I won Artist of the Year in New York City, and I was showing an Art Basel, Mexico City, Berlin. I was doing a lot of art exhibitions. This is a fine art circuit. And when I started to focus on painting Christendom, they just totally ghosted me. And then when I started,
crazy,
it's crazy.
dude.
Yeah, I'm just following God, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we were talking about this the other night last night. We're figuring out when this episode will come out, but um, last night we were talking about how do you pronounce it, Johnny? Balenciaga? As how do you
Balenciaga.
Oh, Balenciaga.
Balenciaga,
Yeah.
and why they do all this satanic pedophile stuff is because they're playing to their audience. That's what their audience wants. And now, like, yeah, it's marketing. If your base is satanic pedophiles who can afford your stuff, you're gonna do commercials and art and print that plays to them. And that totally makes sense that you would get completely shunned because you're kind of going against the grain, which is insanity. But that seems to be fit into this election, which is, regardless of what you think of Trump, and we can get into that later, but it seemed to be the progressive elites versus everybody else. That's what this election came down to me. When you break it down, who's actually going to war with each other, unfortunately, in this country. And that's why when you say all that stuff, it totally resonates with me.
Yeah, because anytime you hear any of these political conversations, whether it's about cultural Marxism or the feminization of the country or welfare, all these different talking points, like essentially those are concentric circles, but the nucleus of what we actually care about is identity. Like, who are we as a country? What are our values and who we are, right? And that's what I experienced in the art world. Well, the art industry is a distillation of this as well. And what I saw is that why is it that artists like Kim Noble, Maggie Geerlings, Patricia Pisanini, all these artists that are also being siphoned through money laundering processes and Pizzagate and all this, like, why are they getting all the limelight? Well, perhaps it's because, not the most redeemable characters run all the major institutions.
Yes.
And we get scraps, man. So it's an uphill fight, but a lot of people who've been following me for a while, like, they know I was offered contracts with some galleries in Soho, and that would have been good for me financially, but I care about the truth, man. Like, I genuinely didn't want to fall in that line. So, the Bible says that you'll be walking the straight and narrow path. And it literally means that if you're seeking the truth, you will be a defector of the mainstream narrative. That's really what it's saying. So that's kind of where I am. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. At the end of the day, I do believe that's part of the teachings of Jesus is that you are going to, if you stick with the truth, you're going to sometimes walk the path alone. And I was just on Rogan and we opened up talking about how lonely it got for me for a long, long time. And I'm very lucky that like one of my favorite people on the planet, and I consider him my best friend, Eddie Bravo, um,
Shout
was
out
able
Eddie.
to work Rogan for a long time, that Rogan could bring a lot of this on. Rogan operates in a very smart way. He knows how to slow drip stuff out to a massive crowd, whereas I'm just sledgehammers. But
Yeah.
100%, dude, like it's like I just did Rogan, I did Kill Tony, I did Adam Carolla, I did Jimmy Dore with Tucker Carlson. You can have a discussion about what some people think about that, I'm sure. I did all that. I got one spot in the city of Los Angeles the whole week after that. One spot. And it was only after I complained about not getting a spot that I got this late spot. And so I've been up against it forever. I've always zigged when everybody else was zagging because I just want to be. I have always said this, and this may apply to you. That when it's all said and done, and when I hang up my microphone, I want people to go, that guy was at least he kept his name and he kept his integrity. Now I am a multi-layered dick joke comic, and you could get upset with that if you want, but that's just the way my brain works. But at the end of the day, I don't compromise for anybody. Okay, we'll just keep going. We'll figure it out if XG has to give. I mean, I just don't want to keep going. Then something happens with the recording. What do you guys think we should do?
I
Should we
mean, it's
wait?
recording.
Be you. Actually, recording.
It's recording on my end, so you can keep going.
Okay. Is now the host. Okay, John. Okay. So let's go back to where you were saying I'm the smartest person Arthur, please, about how I'm playing the game right. So why don't we start at that?
No, I was just sharing that, at the end of the day, it really is about your integrity. And a lot of people don't understand that, at least in the fine art world, I can speak anecdotally and personally about my industry, which is the fine art sphere. The first thing I'll say is that, when people look at the fine art industry, I think it doesn't have the same social media presence or all this, but when you look at people like celebrities like Lady Gaga, Sam Smith, all these uh, demonic manifestations that these celebrities take form as, they have their celebrities, and their celebrities are in the fine art world. And a lot of people don't understand that. Just because many of these fine artists, they don't even have any social media, but they have underground inner circles where they all hang out with another. But I'm saying this because what I've noticed about the fine art industry, and I've had talks with people in Hollywood across the board who have the same analogous sentiment, which is that they don't really let you get all the spotlight attention unless there's two things in mind. Number one, you are either compromised, or number two, you're ideologically in line with them.
Yes.
These are highly coveted positions of attention. You're going to have to work 10 times harder if you actually care about dispelling the lies for the populace.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, so it's one of those things where, like, I had my foot in this pretty big gallery, and I realized these, like, very degenerate people, like, very degenerate people. And I turned my back from them, but then I realized, like, wow, if I just continue to placate this social camouflage, blend in, I could have just kept keeping up with the Joneses, right? But I think, we're more similar animals here. Like, and to me, it's because we're real men. Because real masculinity, is not about muscles or cars or all this. It's about using your voice to stand up for what is right in your heart. That's what I've always understood. That's what the Bible tells you as well. When they talk about logic truth, that is the highest masculine imperative. So for me, it's just about being a man. It's very simple. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm too traditionally minded, but for me, when you're born as a male with male genitalia, the deal that is given to you is that those Mongol son of a bitches are coming this way, the woman and children go this way, and you go forward. That's the deal.
Yes. Dude.
I just believe that. So
deal.
that's the deal. That's why we have to stand up for what is right and use our voice and platform. And you do what you can with what you have. But I'm absolutely in line with you. I would have made so much more money and not have to fight every day and have targets on my back if I just bent my knee and said, "Okay, I'll be the Asian who's spreading the lies for you."
No,
You know
I
what
love
mean?
what you're saying right there.
Yeah.
And just to go back before we had all the internet problems, that, when you go, they're not on social media. They're not on and there's celebrities within these celebrities. That totally resonates with me, because if you look at like what's going on in that art world, which is Satanism, debauchery, okay, and money laundering, you wouldn't want eyeballs on there. Like, whenever you hear a story about a guy who bought a banana for $100,000 or whatever it was, like, I think those stories are meant to leak to kind of make fun of the whole situation, to kind of be like, oh, this isn't serious stuff. But in reality, money laundering is happening for these giant paintings where, like, Kurt Metzger and his girlfriend have a podcast where they make fun of art. And it's just basically like looking at this stuff going, well, why is this, and this? Well, someone decided to money launder through that and pay all that money for that. That's what gave that value. And there's a real argument that has been the basis of Hollywood filmmaking forever. That the number you see really isn't about the production. The money really is about, this is money laundering.
That was too slow. That was a joke.
What's that? Who? I just heard somebody said. Yeah. So
this is your producer? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't even understand what's happening here. This is when you get too close. But yeah, man, I mean,
that explains a lot. That explains a lot. I never thought about that, but I will say though that you are correct. I was actually Art Basel 2019. I was showing in a booth called Scope. This is before I got banned. Because I remember I was just getting a lot of clout and attention. I was being written in White Hot magazine. I was like the up and coming guy in the New York City art scene. So I was exhibiting in a booth called Scope Show, and the banana duct taped to a wall. Yeah. That was being sold for $150,000.
Yeah.
Now, come on. Obviously, what is that? That's the art gallery at the top. At the top. Now, if you look at the pyramid, let me dispel the art industry for a lot of people in a very summarized, tangible way. The art industry is this pyramid. And most people are basically just trying to fight to create a cohesive body, develop a following. But you're only invited to the top, if you have a good portfolio and you have a pretty good sales record. But that's all vetting. But the top is totally a financial instrument. It's totally a financial instrument. And a lot of people don't realize that. That's why there's only really 6 art galleries that run the entire art industry.
Oh.
Gagosian, David Zwirner, Marion Bonesky Gallery, Hall's. I mean, there's 6 galleries, and they're all, they're all Talmudic, but we don't need to get into that.
No, we'll get into that. Well, I have no problems with getting into that. We'll get into that, but because I do want to get into Israel with you because of this election and stuff like that. But finish your thought about the 6 galleries.
Yeah, so these, I mean, once again, it's, normal people, when they go into these top galleries, they'll see this, like a little simple brush stroke on the wall, and they're seeing it's being sold for like $500,000. And average people will say that's kind of feels like an insult to my intelligence, because this is art about culture and my history and what my ancestors sacrificed for and how I'm supposed to continue upholding this meaning. It's about passing a torch. That's what art was really about. And they go, what is this? Isn't this like postmodern garbage? Well, what they're really doing is they're either moving illicit funds in a certain way, or they're doing tax evasion. And the tax evasion thing technically is legal. It's a legal loophole. Like, if there's any really rich people who are good, who want to like save money, they can find like a based artist like myself and do that. They could technically.
Okay,
that's a legal loophole.
So explain that a rich family just all of a sudden buys your artwork for an expensive price, and that's how they launder money? They just pick a random artist, or what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. They don't just find random people, brother. They need to find people who are kind of vetted to a degree.
Who will play ball.
Yes, exactly. Who will also keep their mouths shut. And what happens basically is like, however much you buy the art, you can write it off in taxes. And you can say it's because you're being charitable with your funds. You can literally buy, like, let's say, here's the equation. Let's say you make 50 million a year, and you see an artist and you decide to buy their entire collection for 3 million. Well, you can literally donate that to an organization and basically write that off. So a percentage of your taxes will now have 3 million off. So it's because donations are written off, and art is this altruistic instrument in that regard. So the rich people are basically using this loophole. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be wise about it. It's just the reality of the game. But I got into art because I actually loved art. Like
Well,
I actually
because you're
loved
probably a
paint.
great artist. That's why. I
Thank
mean,
you, sir.
like,
Yeah, I mean, look, the bad guys gave me Artist of the Year. Like, so their own words, by their own judgment, I won Artist of the Year from the people who are running this game. I just decided to go my own way. But a lot of people don't realize that, yeah, it's a total financial psyop.
it's very interesting because, like, as a comedian, rest in peace, Louis Anderson from back in the day. He talked about how the game had changed, and he goes back when he was young in comedy. The comedians would tell the industry what was comedy, and then at some point it flipped, and then it became. And I think that's when the Jerry Seinfeld got, just shoved in everybody's throats. They had Larry David in the back, and then they had, Jerry Seinfeld in the front pushing. Yeah, there we go. Pushing this kind of this BS on us. And they started to take over. And then everybody started doing art, not for the audience, but for the industry. And that's when it went off the rails. And then something like Death Squad comes around, and we start doing podcasts for us, how we want to do it for our audience, and then things begin to change. And so you see that. So I would see comedians that I know. I'm not going to say their names here because that's not my style, but I saw comics who would come in super young, just gunslinging, very edgy shit, and then they got some heat, and then they just changed. And then it stopped. They stopped calling out bullshit. They stopped pointing out all the ridiculous stuff in society. And then they started doing that pop comedy, simple, digestible bullshit. Okay, because that they were told that's what the industry wants. They want you to keep you dumb. Okay, so you watch these people, you watch their Netflix specials. Nothing sticks out because they're not doing it for you. They're doing it for the industry. They're doing it for the idiot at the idiot at Netflix who is booking the net. This New Zealand fat lesbian who's got the most pedestrian jokes ever, and they're giving her a special. So I totally agree with everything he said. I just have to wonder, do you think that there is two sets of art? Meaning there's art that the artists make for the elites, and then there's art that is displayed for all of us, because you see that in architecture, right? Like all the newest apartments all look janky, right? There's some slick ones, but there's some real janky, weird angle art. And then you look at all these houses that these super beyond elites are buying, and they're just gorgeous Tatarian looking architecture. So my question to you is, do you think there's two sets of art out there? What the elites are getting privately versus what is being presented to the masses?
Well, that's a brilliant question, and we're obviously all speaking as artists here. And before I answer this, I will say this is why, like, I'm not only a huge fan of comedy, I've been an advocate of comedy, because comedians, in regards to their role as an artist, they are the vanguards of free speech. Because de facto, as a comedian, you are a free speech agent. De facto. Because you need to have open language and full discourse where you're not being constrained to be funny, because it's about sort of surfing that emotional realm. So, like, de facto, you being a comedian, you are a free speech agent. That being said, you are absolutely correct. Whatever the medium, whether it's like painting like myself, comedy, theater, whatever really artistic medium, there's artists who are actually being transparent about their journey and developing their integration and their identity as an artist. And then there's useful idiots.
Yes.
There's absolute useful idiots. The elite look at them and says, you're the good comedian. You're the Jimmy Kimmel. Like whatever it is, like you are the pet. And your role is to do this contrived, what I call a throat laugh, not a belly laugh, And that's kind of what they're enunciating. They're agents of, they're agents of decadence, really. And what I would say is that all art, regardless, whatever the medium, once again, this is a universality. All art, essentially, it's about normalizing values. And there's people who want to normalize freedom by being themselves and being honest and having integrity on stage. And then there's people who want to denigrate the culture and make them and tell them what you're supposed to think is funny, what you're supposed to think is appealing, and it's absolute controlled opposition. And I just call them useful idiots because they're literally pets for the elite. You know, they're just
so
basically
right.
100%. So and you can tell, and like, you know, this is, I don't want to change gears too much, but I've often always thought, I was like, can you imagine if Patrice O'Neal was alive today? like what? He had so much material, and he would be more banned than anyone.
Well, the craziest thing about that is like, and they're all my friends, so I say this with love.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that 90s New York edgy comedy scene that has gone completely woke because they're calcified in their views that the right is always the bad guys because of a religious oppression, and they flourish when they were taking it to the religious right. And now that the pendulum has swung and the censorship, and it's come from both sides, but it's really coming from the left right now. They can't come to grips with that. They can't open their mind to that. Hey, the people that I was railing against before aren't necessarily the bad guys right now. Okay. Yes, there are going to be people that are going to argue that the ultra right is still doing censorship. And I would agree with that to a point. Yeah. But I'm talking about more people on the left are calling for open censorship. You have people like, who I love to death, Mark Maron, who is calling Trump a fascist, while his own candidate, not just Kamala Harris, but Barack Obama, who he had on his podcast, is calling for censorship on these social media accounts. Like, someone needs to explain to me how that's not fascism, because it's government and big business coming together to censor citizens' rights. That is fascism. So when I hear people like you, and I agree with you, that if Patrice O'Neal stayed on the course that he was on, he would be really upset right now, because so many of his friends right now have just completely become woke. And I still love them. It doesn't mean I don't love them, and I don't think that they are hilarious. I just think that they've lost their way, and they are worshiping an altar that wants nothing to do with them. That no matter how much they conform, they're not going to get love because they just don't fit what they're looking for, which is already uber elite rich kids pretending that poor kids are the big problem. I can't tell you how many people that I love in LA have tweeted anti-white shit. I know Jewish comedians who go, yeah, I'm a this is like in 2018 at the height of cancel culture, going, yeah, I'm racist, I hate white people. Imagine tweeting that and not getting any blowback from everybody.
Well, I'm here to fix that. Okay, white fucking power, number one, and and to add to this, man, you got to understand that, like, you can look at a person and love them. Like, there's family members I love, but I tell them they're wrong. Like, I don't hate them. Like, I don't even have any hate, actually. I don't have hatred in my heart. It's just wrong, you know, and it's about right and wrong. So, yeah, I mean, it's rather disconcerting because essentially these people, they're worshiping a false god, and they're essentially saying, I prioritize more shekels over what is right. And I'm not saying if you're fighting for what is right, you should be sulking in a corner and being broke. That's not the point. The point is that, like, where is your artistic integrity oriented towards? And what I would say is, one thing we have on our side as a favor, which is why you're correct about these comedians changing gears and people no longer feel their energy proper. It's because human beings will always reward authenticity. That is one of the beauties of it, though. It's just sort of innately in our gut. Doesn't mean they're going to get all the biggest contracts from these Babylonian cultural institutions, but you'll still, the people will always look at you and they can tell when you're being real. And I think human beings reward that. So that is why I'm not going to name any of them, by the way, because they could be your friends, but there's many comedians who they're just not as funny anymore. You know, like, and I like to listen to comedy when I paint all the time. And I'll be like, what happened to
You know, a great example of what you're talking about is Saturday Night Live. So Johnny and I have a show called Broken Simulation, and he played me a sketch that they had on the show. And it was basically a game show where, you know, you had to name names, it's called, or something like that. And for the first time ever, Saturday Night Live made fun of the progressive left. And they were, because one of the things was like, you know, one of this super progressive contestant was like, during the BLM, had listed all the black people that were killed by white cops, and it said never forget their names. And then the joke was, for $300,000, can you name one of their names not named George Floyd? And they just zinged them. And Saturday Night Live would still be kings right now if they did that. If they called out the non-common sense retards that are out there in society right now. They just destroyed their brands being bootlickers to Joe Biden for the last 4 years. Just complete and being bootlickers during Trump's first candidacy. I'm sorry, dude. We could sit there and I could go all day on the things that I don't like.
I stopped watching Saturday Night Live because of that. I literally stopped watching because of that. And I was just like I don't need to tune in to be told that my morality is evil. Like, I'm not, I came here to have a laugh, and, you know, I came here for pleasure and to be in a relaxed state, not to be told, you're not a good Asian, by the way. I'm like, okay, I've been told that enough now, you know.